Welcome to the Hoosier Cabinet video, an in-depth look at those antique kitchen work units called Hoosiers that were popular from the turn of the century until the 1930s. In this video, we'll examine the history of Hoosier cabinets through their various manufacturers and take a close-up look at some excellent original cabinets. Then we'll show you how to install replacement parts in an original Hoosier, some of the parts now being remanufactured, and finally provide you with sources of parts and additional information. Now, here's your host, the proprietor of Uncle Tom's Hoosier Cabinets and Parts, Tom Lozier.
We're going to tell you about the history of Hoosier cabinets, but before we do, let's take a look at a fine example of a Hoosier style cabinet made by G.I. Sellers & Son. Today we have a nice example of a Sellers spatial kitchen cabinet. This cabinet was made mid-20s and is solid oak. This cabinet is equipped with a nice long Sellers flower bin, which is very similar to the one that goes in the Sellers 48-inch wide Mastercrafts. Has a nice oval window, will hold a considerable amount of flour. Has a Sellers S-latch, and on the inside, a full set of charts, original charts, and a cookbook holder with a tested and approved good housekeeping seal. On the far side, two original charts, the most rare being the little egg timer chart at the bottom. And it does have the automatic shelf opener in the base of the cabinet, which was a nice feature. Pot and pan rack, a little rolling pin rack here, and its cutting board, which makes it a nice complete unit. And of course the red drawer on the bottom right, as most cabinets are equipped with. And a nice added touch is a meat grinder holder on the right side of the unit, which is a hard to find item, and has a very good example of a porcelain pull-out table, which the lady used to work on, slides in easily, and has a beautiful blue granite edge. The term Hoosier refers to many of our early kitchen cabinets and many manufacturers. However, there was one manufacturer who capitalized on the name Hoosier from our Hoosier state, which is the Hoosier Manufacturing Company. There were four major companies within a 50-mile radius of Indianapolis. The Hoosier Manufacturing Company, of course, which is Newcastle. Campbell Smith Ritchie Company, which is out of Lebanon, which made the Boone cabinets. G.I. Sellers & Sons out of Elwood, which made the Sellers cabinets. And G.P. McDougal & Sons out of Frankfort and Indianapolis, which made McDougal cabinets. Another major manufacturer located in Napanee, Indiana, made Napanee kitchen cabinets. These were popular pieces, and by the year 1920 or 1921, a large percentage of the American public had one of these workhorses in their home, along with their ice box, which had real ice blocks, a little kitchen table, generally a little wood stove, and a kitchen sink that had a manual pump in it. At first, these were rather large pieces, which would hold all sorts of devices to help the cooking, such as flour bins, sugar bins, cutting boards, little pull-out trays, pot and pan racks, to do all the necessary things to work in the kitchen. Much of the history is missing, however, we do have some nice old ads and pictures of these cabinets. First of all, let's start with the Hoosier Manufacturing Company, which made over 4 million of these units. The first Hoosier cabinet, one containing a real flour bin and work area, was designed by the Hoosier Manufacturing Company. The company was started by James S. McQuinn, his son Emmett, and three prominent businessmen in the small town of Albany, Indiana in late 1898. For $130 each, the group purchased a defunct furniture factory, determined to make and sell an improved kitchen cabinet. In late 1899, they had their first working model, and soon after were making about 35 units a month. Emmett was the one who conceived of advertising their cabinets in a national magazine. The Hoosier Manufacturing Company's first ad cost $47.50 and described the company's number 10 kitchen cabinet. As business grew and space became scarce, an addition was built to the Albany factory. On January 27, 1900, 2 days before the addition was to go into operation, a raging fire burned the entire complex to the ground. Undeterred, J.S. McQuinn and his son Emmett looked for a suitable site to rebuild. This was soon found in nearby Newcastle, Indiana, in the form of the empty Speeder Cycle Factory. Within 30 days after the fire at Albany, McQuinn and his son took possession of the new factory. Another 30 days later, they started turning out cabinets again. And even before they decided on the new location, they had placed new advertising giving their address as 1200 South 14th Street, Newcastle, Indiana. At the time, 14th Street did not exist. Early Hoosier cabinets were built one at a time by skilled cabinet makers. Each craftsman was provided with enough stock to build 4 cabinets at a time and had to custom cut each individual piece to fit. It was a slow, laborious process. This was addressed early in 1903 with the hiring of Harry Hall. Hall standardized the cabinet parts so they were interchangeable and could be assembled by less skilled workmen in an assembly line process even before Henry Ford. This resulted in a greater output of cabinets, and by the end of 1903, the Hoosier Manufacturing Company was making more cabinets than it could sell, even with their advertising. For whatever reason, dealers at that time were reluctant to carry the new Hoosier cabinets, even though leads were being generated by national advertising. James and Emmett addressed the problem and came up with a unique solution. They would advertise that Hoosier cabinets would now be sold by the company direct to homemakers, effectively cutting out dealers. Only this wasn't their real goal. Rather, they gambled that their move would attract national attention and that in the end dealers would be begging the company for the opportunity to sell Hoosier cabinets. The gamble worked. After creating quite a stir, by 1904, over 600 dealers were signed up and actively selling Hoosier cabinets as agents of the Hoosier Manufacturing Company. About this time, James McQuinn came up with the idea of adding a sugar bin and spice jars to the existing cabinets to enhance sales. These improvements became immediately popular. Soon after, Mr. Hall originated the idea of an extendable worktop, and you had the basis for what we consider a classic Hoosier cabinet. Many other manufacturers would soon copy this style, but Hoosier remained king. By 1910, the Hoosier Manufacturing Company had sold over 300,000 kitchen cabinets and was represented by nearly 3,000 dealers. Hoosier dealerships were highly valued, and only one store was allowed per town. Nearly 50 salesmen traveled the country, and Hoosier cabinets were even sold internationally through a representative in England. About 1920, porcelain tops and matching tables and chairs were added to the line. Much of the success of the Hoosier Manufacturing Company was due to its continual advertising and marketing effort. Many cabinets were purchased through a club plan, where a $1 membership fee and dues of $1 per week purchased a cabinet. We have all heard the term $1 down and $1 a week. National advertising increased, and by the 1920s, the company was spending over $250,000 annually. Free ads were provided to dealers, and great emphasis was placed on sales and marketing by creating special promotions, marketing pamphlets, and sales brochures. Hoosier cabinets were even put on display at major international exhibitions. The sales of freestanding Hoosier cabinets peaked about 1925, when built-in kitchen cabinetry started to become popular. Addressing a change in taste, Hoosier cabinets were now offered in a variety of colors, including white, gray, green, and yellow. These were quite popular, as many people considered these colors more cheerful than the darker natural oak finishes. By 1930, the Hoosier Manufacturing Company also offered an extensive line of built-in cabinetry as well, and the days of the classic Hoosier cabinet were numbered. Freestanding Hoosier cabinets continued to be manufactured until 1940. But often less expensive woods were substituted for oak, and the workmanship in these cabinets was inferior. James S. McQuinn died in 1938, and his son Emmett became president. The lessening demand for kitchen cabinets and a shortage of material created by World War II made continued operations difficult. The company was sold in 1942 and liquidated by the new owners. By the time the company was sold, nearly 4 million Hoosier cabinets had been produced by the Hoosier Manufacturing Company, far more than any other company, and the name Hoosier had come to symbolize not only a particularly functional and innovative kitchen workpiece, but a whole generation of kitchen furniture made by a host of other manufacturers in the early 1900s. The second largest manufacturer of Hoosier cabinets was G.I. Sellers & Son. It was founded in 1888 as the Kokomo Furniture Company by George Irish Sellers. In its early days, the company manufactured quality oak furniture. By 1904, the company covered more than 5 city blocks and was a thriving operation, employing more than 125 men. On December 29, 1904, a night watchman fell down a stairway while carrying a kerosene lantern, and the entire complex was destroyed by the resulting fire. Following the fire, George Sellers was determined to rebuild immediately. Before he could start construction in Kokomo, business leaders in Elwood, Indiana, raised public funds and invited him to purchase the Elwood planing mill there. As this was the quickest way to resume business, George purchased the empty plant and moved his company to Elwood. With the move to Elwood, George Sellers decided to specialize in the production of kitchen cabinets in competition with cabinets made by the Hoosier Manufacturing Company about 50 miles to the east. Two of Mr. Sellers' sons, Wilford and George L., joined him in the business, and the company became G.I. Sellers and Sons. G.I. Sellers died in 1909, and Wilford took over running the business. The company prospered under his control partly because he initiated a program of national advertising in popular magazines. A large dealer network was also developed. At the height of operations in 1920, the company boasted 48 salesmen and more than 4,500 dealers nationwide. Special sales promotions, monthly four-color ads in Ladies' Home Journal, Good Housekeeping, the Saturday Evening Post, and other publications, and a permanent display at the Merchandise Mart in Chicago helped keep sales high. Several sales campaigns resulted in trains leaving Elwood with 100 or more cars, all loaded with only kitchen cabinets made by Sellers. Wilford also was responsible for some of the many innovations on Sellers cabinets, including the exclusive ant-proof casters. A shallow press bowl around the caster stem could be filled with oil, kerosene, or baking soda to keep insects from climbing up the legs of the cabinet. Other unique hardware found on Sellers cabinets were, for a short time, screw-in glass knobs and door latches with an embossed S. Chief designer Bill Cornwell is credited with inventing the roll doors used on many Sellers cabinets during this era, and a unique spring-loaded automatic lowering flour bin mechanism that allowed a large flour bin to be lowered to the waist level for easy filling, then automatically raised back into the cabinet. Unfortunately, while attending a furniture show in North Carolina in 1924, Wilford's wife contracted typhoid fever. While she was being cared for, Wilford was forced to return home to attend pressing business. Shortly after arriving home, he also became ill with typhoid and died. George L. Sellers then became president of the company, where he served until 1934. Many Sellers cabinets were marketed with the names Sellers Special, KitchenAid, Mastercraft, and Clearfront, the latter referring to the uncluttered look when the cabinet-wide roll door was closed. Most early cabinets were finished in natural oak, but by 1925, magazine ads were keyed to color. As building kitchen cabinets became popular in the 1930s, Sellers offered a complete line of built-ins. Also offered were matching breakfast sets consisting of tables and chairs, sinks, and miniature cabinets for children. The company managed to survive World War II and the resulting shortage of labor and materials, but the economic conditions finally resulted in the cessation of operations in 1950. The complex was leased as warehouse space until 1964, when fire destroyed all but a few remaining buildings. The Campbell Smith Ritchie Company, makers of Boone kitchen cabinets, was for a time the largest industry in Lebanon, Indiana. The company was originally founded around 1867 and was located on North Lebanon Street. The company changed hands numerous times until it became the Campbell Smith Ritchie Planing Mill, and it served primarily as a lumber yard and mill until 1905. On Sunday, August 27, 1905, fire broke out at the mill on North Lebanon Street and completely destroyed the business. Shortly after the fire, the company bought land on West South Street and began new construction of what would become a thriving manufacturing concern. With the new construction, more energy was devoted to making the kitchen workpieces that were rapidly growing in popularity. By 1910, the manufacture of kitchen cabinets was successful enough that they closed the lumber yard to concentrate only on making Boone kitchen cabinets. The company originally offered 3 models of cabinets. In 1922, Campbell Smith Ritchie announced 3 new models designed by 369 women. The Mary Boone was the most expensive of these, selling for about $55. Its special features included a built-in desk section, a disappearing ironing board, a built-in alarm clock, a plate glass mirror, electrical sockets, and an optional coffee mill, in addition to the standard flour bin, bread drawer, pull-out work area, and other features. The two less expensive models were the Helen Boone and the Betty Boone. By 1925, more models were added, including one called Bertha Boone. As its name implies, this cabinet was quite large, incorporating two ceiling-high storage cabinets located on either side of a large kitchen cabinet. By comparison, the Campbell Smith Ritchie Company did much less advertising than the other major manufacturers. However, they continued to prosper until the Great Depression. In their peak years, the company employed as many as 150 workers. When built-in kitchen cabinets became popular, the company began manufacturing built-ins and kitchen sets of tables and chairs. But these cabinets bear little resemblance to the earlier kitchen workpieces, with plain doors and few special features. In 1940, the company was sold to an Indianapolis businessman, but it did not prove successful for the new owner. The company went into receivership about a year later, and Lebanon's once largest employer ceased operations for good. The McDougall Company was started by George P. McDougall, the father of Charles P. McDougall, who was known for the McDougall cabinet. George McDougall was a Civil War veteran who made kitchen safes and tables in the rear of a storeroom on West Washington Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. While growing up and assisting his father, Charles took well to the cabinetry trade. Finally, father and son joined in business as G.P. McDougall and Son in 1898. The elder McDougall died in 1901, and Charles McDougall took over the company. After organizing the business so it could operate in his absence for a time, Charles traveled to Europe to study German and Dutch kitchens. He returned with unique designs for kitchen cabinets that were manufactured in his Indianapolis facility until 1909. These cabinets were sold with the help of some of the earliest advertisements in national publications. Though not truly Hoosier cabinets, these early pieces are striking in their European influence and command high prices today. In 1909, a disgruntled watchman wanting a vacation started a disastrous fire at the McDougall facility. The entire plant and 12 homes were destroyed. Undaunted, Charles McDougall purchased the former Hope manufacturing plant in Frankfort, Indiana, and, equipped with the latest machinery, started back in operation in 1910. The cabinets built in Frankfort were very different from those built in Indianapolis and were more of the style known as Hoosier cabinets. A unique feature of the McDougall was the patented auto front roll door, which pulled up from the bottom of the cabinet. All other manufacturers had roll doors that pulled from the top or sides, and as such, this is a good indication of a McDougall cabinet. Cabinets built in the late 20s reverted to conventional roll doors, and some may have been painted in enamel colors rather than an oak finish. By 1931, Charles McDougall was no longer actively involved in the day-to-day activities of the company. In the throes of the Depression, and having never married with no close friends, one day Charles McDougall asked an associate to make his funeral arrangements. When the associate said he hoped they wouldn't be needed soon, McDougall is said to have replied, "You never know." The next day, November 24, 1933, McDougall drove to a farm north of the city, tied a rope around his waist, attached to a large cork, and drowned himself. Notes were left telling where to find his body, and the cork was to help in recovery. There was no note explaining why. Today, McDougall cabinets are some of the most impressive Hoosier cabinets available, and those manufactured prior to the move to Frankfort in 1909 are eagerly sought after. Another popular brand of Hoosier cabinet was Napanee, made at the time by Koppes, Zook and Mutual, Incorporated in Napanee, Indiana. The company actually began as a sawmill in 1876, owned by brothers Frank and John Koppes. Later on, the company became Koppes Brothers and Zook to reflect changes in ownership. The company manufactured home furnishings, including kitchen cabinets. Early examples of Napanee cabinets were made of oak and included possum belly cabinets, fifth legs, and dry sink models. In 1913, Daniel Zook died, and the Koppes brothers decided to specialize in only kitchen cabinets, building them in the style now known as Hoosier cabinets. They advertised the new line as Dutch kitchenettes. The brothers performed a unique time study with their cabinets. Resulting advertisements in national magazines noted the number of steps a housewife takes every day to prepare her meals. The ads proclaimed that of 2,113 daily steps, 1,592 of them could be saved by buying a Dutch kitchenette. The Napanee Company survived the Depression, World War II, and the advent of built-in cabinets, and is still in existence today in Napanee, Indiana. They now make modern custom-built kitchen cabinets. Many other manufacturers made kitchen cabinets during the Hoosier period. Counts range from 8 to over 40. The list of other manufacturers includes Wilson, KitchenMaid, Greencastle, Ariel, Hawkeye, Ideal, Shelby, and other brands. Hoosier-style cabinets were also sold by the large mail-order houses such as Montgomery Ward's and Sears. Often these companies hired a cabinet manufacturer to put their name on stock cabinets. Sears cabinets were believed to be made by the Wilson Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This company claimed at one time to be the third largest cabinet manufacturer in the nation, behind Hoosier and Sellers. While this is only a limited look at the history of the Hoosier cabinet, we hope it is useful in understanding the important role these pieces of furniture played in the early part of this century and in the daily lives of our ancestors. Today we're going to present you with a variety of very nice cabinets that were made from around 1914 to close to the 1920 period. There's been a lot of interest in the Hoosiers, and this way you can see them personally. We're going to start with the 1914 Hoosier Beauty, which is a very beautiful unit. It has a 5-door top, and when this cabinet was first made, they had painted it white on the inside. When we refinish them, we usually take all the paint out. We're going to give you a view of the inside, the total inside of the cabinet, and all the little articles that were help the housewife. Start with the flour bin, which would hold about 30 pounds of flour. Has a little sliding unit here where you put the flour in. Has a Christine Fredericks food planning chart for your meals, which is a nice item. You can put their coffee and tea and so forth on here. The flour, you set the crank, and then it releases here on this method here. And the sugar bin, which is loaded from the top. You take your sugar out at the bottom, and your unique spice jars, which has Hoosier right on the lids, and it is a swing cover style lid, which is very difficult to find. These are all original pieces. Has a zinc top, which they used at that time period. All the charts and so forth are original on this particular cabinet. In the base of the cabinet, we have a place for the pot and pan lids, have storage for canned goods, storage for more pots and pans, a nice cutting board. A nice feature here is your partitioned silverware drawer, which not all cabinets have. And on the far right side of the cabinet, we have a bread box, and then it has a metal sliding cover which keeps the bread fresh. Perhaps a cake drawer or other utensils here, and one other drawer at the top. It had oval latches for that time period, which is a fairly old cabinet. It had the 6-hole butterfly hinges, which is a very old hinge for that time period, where they later went to a 4-hole. And when it's all closed up, it's an all oak unit. It makes a very beautiful kitchen piece. This beautiful unit here is an IXL Goshen cabinet, made in Goshen, Indiana. Has a little roll-up door. Has a very unique feature, which is very difficult to find. It's a little baby sugar jar, and it's about half the size of your standard swing-away sugar jars. There aren't many of these in existence. A lot of these cabinets were sold under a generic name through catalog companies, and some people confuse them with Sellers. However, only IXL used this beautiful star glass pattern and also use the little small jar. It's about a 38-inch wide unit. Has a little flour sifter with the oval window, very similar to a cellar style bin, however. Take note of the extra long quarter moon shaped latch on this unit. They're very difficult to find. Has a nice rack there for your lids and so forth, and also has a pull-out tray similar to your Hoosier, and storage for your pots and pans. Also does have a cutting board, which you can use on the top there on the porcelain to roll out your noodles and so forth. Also has your slide-out bread box with its original cover, and 2 other utensil drawers. These also come in wider units, which make very beautiful units also. It's one of my favorite style cabinets, especially if it's in the 4-door, 48-inch or 54-inch models. Here we have a Sellers 48-inch wide oak Mastercraft unit, which is made in Elwood, Indiana, as you can see on the tag. It's featured with caramel Kokomo slag glass, has the ring latches, full of original Sellers condiment and spices. Inside of the right door we have the Sellers swing away sugar jar. It's a very beautiful and getting to be very hard to find item. The glass pattern matches the same as its spices, condiments, and salt. Another interesting Sellers piece is the Sellers measuring cup, which actually says the word Sellers on the bottom of it. They're very hard to find. Has a full set of original Sellers charts on every door, which is very hard to find. So we'll tell the lady what she's out of in the way of her products and so forth at the store. And the bin is featured a lot in the old ladies' home journal ads. And it's spring loaded, and it comes out of the cabinet all the way down and locks in place, and it's loaded from this position here with the lid. And to put it back into the cabinet, you have to flip the little pieces back like so, and we'll let it automatically pull itself back up into the cabinet. There was a lot of engineering in this piece. There's a lot of working space with this cabinet. It has a pull-out porcelain top, which has unlimited space on it. Also has your cutting board, which is underneath. Also has your silverware drawer. Has a very rare feature of the screw-in glass knobs, and yes, it's threaded just like a light bulb. They didn't use these for a long period of time. They later went to a model with a screw that went through the middle of the knob. These are very rare. And they lock in like so. And in the base of the cabinet, we have our baskets for our pot and pan lids. The base of this unit features the extended shelf automatic opening device. It has a little rack for your canned goods and so forth. On the far side of the cabinet, it also has the bread box with a sliding lid, such as many of the other cabinets, and 2 other drawers for utensils. It is just a very beautiful unit. Here we have a beautiful McDougall brand cabinet, as you can see by the high quality tag, and it's a nice 48-inch wide unit. And the unusual quality about this unit is that it is a 3-door model as opposed to the 4-door, which is on the Sellers model. The unique feature on this cabinet is the McDougall roll-up latch, which only McDougall uses a system where the roll top does come up from the bottom. You can see the patented design auto front roll, which only McDougall cabinets had. For all the other cabinets, the roll top rolls from the bottom and into the back of the cabinet. It's a nice little latch. And it has this extra large swing away sugar jar. And then these original pieces we're looking at. And the original lid sometimes will have a little ring on the side. And this is about a third of the size larger than a normal size swing away sugar jar. We have a very rare piece here, which is the coffee dispenser. And it fastened to this side of the cabinet and was used in McDougall cabinets. I have seen them in some other patterns. And you have your coffee, tea, spices, and your salt. And it too also has a very fine featured flour bin, which comes out its own unique method. It has a very clever loading system, which only McDougall used that exact system. And of course, the flour was sifted here. It would come out down here. Has some nice charts on the inside. Notice on the McDougall latch, has a little teardrop style and has an inverted catch. And on the inside, we can see a set of original charts, an extract tray, miscellaneous tray. And do take note of the Good Housekeeping seal, and it is dated 1919. All original parts, all original glassware in this unit. Little cookbook holder, little bill pair hooks. And in the bottom of this unit, it also has the double doors, which most of your 48 cabinets will have. Has your baskets for your pot and pan lids. Has a nice pull-out tray. Also has a wire rack where you can put your pot and pan lids and then various canned goods. Here we have a McDougall handle, which is mounted from the inside of the door. I've seen these in nickel, brass, and copper, as this is illustrated. Also, we have a McDougall style hinge, which is unique in its design compared to other manufacturers. And again, as most cabinets, it has your metal lined bin for your bread drawer with its original lid. You're seeing all original hardware, all original glassware, and a beautiful granite edge porcelain top on this unit. It's a very high quality unit. Here we have a fine example of an Ideal cabinet made by Ideal Cabinet Company, Vincennes, Indiana. As you can see with the tag, it's got beautiful original frosted glass. Latch on the cabinet is very similar to the Boone style latch. We have shelving space for grandma's dishes. Nice frosted glass effect, and you may see the shimmer in the glass as it's being photographed. Little spice drawers. If you note on the inside of the bin for the flour, it has a rounded effect for scooping out flour. I believe this little filled out bin here could either be used for sugar or perhaps cornmeal. A little pull-out shelf over here to put in your utensils and so forth. It has a double cutting board, which is kind of unique. Top is wooden, which some of these models sometimes would have had zinc top during this period of time. It was still a pretty piece, but however, it's still a kitchen work piece. I have a little drawer here also. Although by now you probably think they're all my favorites. This really is one of my favorite units. It's about a 1905 Hastings, Michigan cabinet. It's all oak. And not only is it so fine in its workmanship in the wood, it's also got some excellent metal workmanship in it, which I'll show you in a moment. Has original glass doors. It's built in this simple but rare latch. Look on the inside of the Hastings cabinet. It does have its original blunt list and pad, miscellaneous items needed in weights and measures and so forth. It says Hastings Cabinet Company, Hastings, Michigan, which is a very hard piece to find in itself. And inside this door, now part of our flour bin showing. You can either access the inside, you can access the flour from this method, little sliding panels on the door, or we can open up the door entirely and sit like so. And to reload the flour bin, this comes out a little tilt. We reload it here, has a little mechanism on the side there, holds right in place. On this side of the cabinet, we have its original sugar bin, which loads and unloads similar to other sugar bins. Has some unique workmanship on the racks for the condiments and the coffee and tea. On the inside, we have a little rolling pin rack, also another wire rack for condiments. It's a very beautiful unit. Two nice drawers at the top. Note the routing around the edge of the doors, which I haven't seen any other brand of cabinet take that much excess time to make a very beautiful unit. In the base of the cabinet, of course, we have a little cutting board. We have a drawer for our silverware. I'd like to make special mention on the the intricate wire work that they did on this particular style cabinet. And on a little pull-out tray, they put the little guard against the back to keep the little can from falling off. They just put a little extra effort in these pieces. Very unusual and hard to find. Will anyone find a pie safe that locks on the insides of these cabinets? It has 3 pull-out cooling racks, and also a little cake or bread drawer. Fits in the bottom, and it does close and lock shut. And one more feature, she thought we might be done. There's little pull-out boards to the sides. I believe these could have also been used to hold other dishes while we were preparing, or could even be used as a makeshift table. Of course, the zinc top indicates its time period, which is very early turn of the century. Nice tall unit. And all function, it's all there. It's beautiful. Today in the shop we have an example of a Hoosier cabinet. It's missing its flour bin, it's also missing its sugar bin, and it's missing its spice carousel. And we're going to show how to install those pieces, and when we end up, we'll have a cabinet that's a working cabinet with its flour, sugar, and spice. The first thing we're going to do today is install the flour bin. And the easiest way I've found to install the bin is by removing the back of the cabinet first. We have made earlier preparation on this back to get most of the nails off, and they must be removed gently without breaking any pieces. But it can be done. And as you see, we just about have it removed at this point to make room to put in this new flour bin. Now we're ready to put the bin in the cabinet. We've already pre-marked our holes to align this bin to the cabinet to tack it into the main frame pieces. It's made very close tolerance, so it slips right in, and as it slips in, we must square it up inside the cabinet so it feels snug to the original fit. I'm going to take one nail. By tacking this nail in a little, it will square the bin up and hold it temporarily in place to be prepped to align the rest of the holes, the pre-marked holes, to finish securing the bin. Now that the bin is secure, the next thing we usually do is to roll the cabinet over onto this side and finish tacking the pre-marked holes into the frame members in order to get the bin in nice and tight so it feels real secure. And at that point, the bin should be locked in place. The next thing we're going to do today is to install the little 7-spice carousel into the cabinet. And it goes in quite easily. You just remove the screw, put it through the hole. And we get it started. And then just add your screwdriver. Use regular or electric. At this point, the dowel is secured. The last thing to complete this installation is to put 2 screws in the little wire wishbone piece here. And this will form a triangle to make this piece secure, where you can put your 7 spices and your rotating carousel. And the last piece we're going to add is our sugar bin. The mounting brackets are already inside the cabinet. It's a very simple piece to install. It has the little runner rails on the sides. You just lift it up in here. Just slip the bin right in place. And close the release handle. And then if we wish to, when we wish to load the bin, We can just slip it out, lift the little cover, put our sugar in. Of course, we dispense it from down here. Similar lever on your flour. At this point, all three pieces have been installed in this unit to make it functional, and it wasn't that difficult. And all that has to be done at this point is to close the cabinet up, put its tamper in place. This model happens to have two tampers. Just going to put the right one in to show you an example how easily they will go back in on this cabinet. And the last thing we have to do is to put the back on the cabinet. And we're finished. You are seeing a group of Hoosier cabinet parts which we exclusively manufacture in our own facility. This is an example of our Hoosier door mount sugar bin, which goes on the older door model Hoosiers as opposed to the side tamper models. Next to it is two sizes of sugar jar rings that we manufacture. To the right of that is our Hoosier slide-in sugar bin, which goes on most models on the right-hand side. Below that is two pair of side brackets, which we manufacture for Hoosiers. And next to that is our large mounting harness with springs, which go in a lot of models. Next to that is a cornmeal bin, which goes on the right side of many models. And pull-down arms in two sizes. And a large Hoosier bin, which goes in almost all Hoosier models. And then there's a slide-in model Hoosier bin, which goes in your highboy Hoosiers. With the carousel, which goes in the center of most models, and an example of our sifter cone to the left of that. And below that is various trays we have to enhance the doors. And to the left of that is an example of our Hoosier dial chart with a pot and pan basket and a condiment rack. And to the right is a group of parts which we'll look at more closely. And various charts that go in cellars. And the cellar's S-jar rack, rolling pin rack, and round rack. And to the right of that is the larger pot and pan rack with some more Hoosier charts and our cookbook holder and our meat grinder holder, and I think in the background you can see our bullet catches and our McDougal roll latch. Here we have an example of our left and right Sellers S latch. To the left is the Hoosier eye bolts, and to the right of that are a pair of bill pair hooks. This is our automatic shelf extender, which goes in Sellers cabinets. The blue and white tag fits on the side tamper models of the Hoosier cabinets. The McDougal tag fits on the older McDougal cabinets. And the last tag fits on the older model Hoosier cabinets. What we have shown you are only samples of some of the parts that we manufacture. Many other parts are available as well from us and the other sources listed at the end of this tape.
Hope you've enjoyed this close-up look at Hoosier Cabinets. Production facilities were provided by Milestone Field and Post, Zionsville, Indiana. Additional copies of this video may be obtained from Uncle Tom's Hoosier Cabinets and Parts, Ellettsville, Indiana, 812-876-5060.